What's going on, everyone? It is looking more and more likely like Bradley Beal is heading to the Phoenix Suns, which is very interesting because his agent son is like the CEO of the Phoenix Suns, and people always talk about LeBron James and clutch sports and all that, and yet this is something that is okay, and it's very similar to the whole Jalen Brunson thing, where the Knicks got in trouble for that, right? But regardless, it looks like the Phoenix Suns are potentially positioning themselves to go and acquire Bradley Beal for essentially peanuts on the dollar. What the deal entails, it looks like it's going to be Chris Paul and Landry Shamet for Bradley Beal, which would be the steal of the century, especially if the Phoenix Suns win. I don't really think they will. I don't think it makes sense for Phoenix, period, because they have no depth, no roster, no nothing. If they are able to keep DeAndre Ayton, well, then that'll help because then they could take Ayton and kind of flip him into, 2 or 3 rotation guys and maybe kind of round out the roster. But we'll see how that goes. Regardless, if Chris Paul is included in that Phoenix Suns deal for the Bradley Beal, then the Washington Wizards are going to waive Chris Paul because there's no reason for them. They're hitting the reset button. There's talks about Kristaps Porzingis potentially getting traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. So they're fully hitting the reset button, which could be interesting. And we'll touch on that in a little bit in another video. But this video, I want to prepare people because it's looking more and more likely like Chris Paul is coming to the Lakers. If Chris Paul is bought out, or waived or stretched or whatever ends up happening, which if he gets traded, he'll end up getting waived. Most likely what is set to happen is Chris Paul is going to leave and come to a team like the Lakers. It makes a world of sense. The Lakers could really use him. Once you get him, then the Lakers would have a little bit of a decision. Do you keep D'Angelo Russell? Do you flip D'Angelo Russell? Do you bring back Dennis Schroeder? I kind of lean towards like, bring back Dennis Schroeder if you can and trade D'Angelo Russell and try to turn him into like maybe a center or, another perimeter guy or maybe a couple 3-and-D guys. Can you turn him with the 17th pick, like Beasley, Mo Bamba, like things like that? Yeah, you'd have some flexibility. Although I wouldn't hate if they kept D'Angelo Russell. It just makes things a little complicated, right? Makes things a little, because who's coming off the bench? Is Chris Paul going to be willing to come off the bench? Do you move Austin Reeves to the bench? Do you move D'Angelo Russell to the bench? These are all things that could plague an issue at some point for the Lakers. But regardless, neither here nor there. Now, there is always the potential that Chris Paul goes elsewhere, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Clippers, Philadelphia. There's options, right? But I just think the biggest factor is LeBron James and Chris Paul's relationship. Chris Paul has said in the past, that the whole Vito trade, that he would have loved it. He's played in LA before. His family's in LA. All of his endorsements and commercials and stuff. He's constantly in LA. Owns a house in LA. All of that stuff. LA makes a world of sense for Chris Paul at this point. Now, could he go to the Clippers? Sure, but you already been there. You already done that. Why not go to Lakers, play with LeBron James, kind of fulfill that like, what if I played with the Lakers, could I have won a championship? The Lakers, even with as bad as the Lakers have been, what's funny, and this is hilarious to me, is the Lakers started 2-10 on the season, had one of the worst seasons in the history of the Lakers, and still finished better than the Clippers. They still finish better than the Clippers have ever finished in their all time. They've gone to the Western Conference Finals one time, and the Lakers, as terrible of a season as they had, still made it to the Western Conference Finals. Again, big brother trumps little brother all the time. Does Chris Paul really want to go back to the Clippers when he could go to a team like the Lakers that was just in the Western Conference Finals? Very likely could be back there and have a real opportunity to win. Makes a lot of sense. He gets to play with his buddy. Of course, there are other options. Yes, he could go out there. But even all the reports have came out and said publicly, like, hey, Chris Paul's going to the Lakers. That's where he wants to go. The Lakers are highly interested in Chris Paul. They're going to make an offer. They're going to make a move for him. You're going to get Chris Paul very dirt cheap. I know a lot of people are really split on Chris Paul coming to Lakers. We've talked about Chris Paul heavily in different variations, different possibilities. all of that stuff, because it's a very real possibility and it's very likely to happen, period. And I know people aren't big on it, but Lakers need it, right? They need his leadership. They need his veteran experience, his presence. Imagine what he would do for the young guys like an Austin Reeves, right? Imagine if Austin Reeves can learn the point guard position from one of the greatest point guards ever, one of the best basketball minds ever. You also always get a playmaker on the court with one of the greatest IQs ever in LeBron James or Chris Paul. That has value. That is important. Chris Paul also isn't going to be playing that second fiddle type guy. He's going to be the third, fourth, fifth option on the Lakers, and he's going to be dirt cheap. He's going to be high risk or high reward, low risk type move. Not going to be paying him $30 million a year. You're going to be paying him at most the taxpayer mid-level, which is like $6 million a year. So, going to get Chris Paul dirt cheap. You're going to get the experience. You're going to get the know-how. You're going to get the knowledge. You're going to get all of that. He's not going to have to play 40 minutes a game like he was in Houston and with the Clippers and with the Phoenix Suns. No, because again, he's not going to have to be the guy. He gets to just kind of do what he does best, orchestrate, facilitate. Rondo was the same way. Everybody said Rondo was trash. Why did the Lakers sign him? That was a waste of a roster spot. He's not the same guy. He doesn't play defense anymore. He can't score the basketball. He can't shoot. He's this, that, and the other. And you know what? Rajon Rondo was one of the biggest factors in why the Lakers won an NBA championship. And Chris Paul, even at this point, is a better player than Rajon Rondo when he was with the Lakers in 2020. Yes, Chris Paul's injury concerns are a big concern. Look, a lot of people want Kyrie Irving. Chris Paul has played more games than Kyrie Irving the last 3 seasons or whatever, right? Even last year. So, Chris Paul is a huge factor for the Lakers, and I think also gives the Lakers more flexibility. Because if you have Chris Paul, again, now you can look to trade D'Angelo Russell. Now you can look to maybe make some other moves, right? It's like, well, we're going to lose Dennis Schroeder. We could use a backup point guard. Well, now you don't need to worry about that, right? You already got one locked up and you got an upgrade in Chris Paul. I see a lot of people talk about, Schroeder's better than Paul, this guy's better than Paul. That, to me, that's just silly hating. I mean, Chris Paul was the second option and was just in the NBA Finals, 2 years ago. Was, a guy that still, even this last year, was basically the second option on the Phoenix Suns. And the Phoenix Suns were, the 4th seed? Right? Even before they went and got Kevin Durant. Chris Paul still makes a huge factor and difference on the basketball court. Huge. Because the things that he provides outside of just being able to score the basketball and play defense. He still tries on the defensive end. He's not people act like he's just the worst defender in the world. He's not. I mean, he's not what he once was. He's not the, Chris Paul that was one of the best defensive guards in the league. No, he's not that guy anymore, but he is more than capable of being a guy that can hold his own, and with him not having to play 40 minutes a game and be this guy that that has to basically handle the workload and be the second best player on a roster night in and night out. He doesn't have to be that. Maybe he can focus more and lock in more defensively. He was a 117 defensive rating, right? League average is 115. So he was only 2 points different than league average. Granted, that he would also be one of the worst defenders on the Lakers, right? Guys like Malik Beasley was a 117. Lonnie Walker was a 117. D'Angelo Russell, I think, was a 117 or close. He was a 116 and some change. So Chris Paul, yes, he's not a great defender, but he's not atrocious, right? I know some people might argue, well, Lonnie Walker was, and Beasley was, and, D'Lo was. They at least made the attempts, right? That's what Chris Paul is going to give you. He's going to give you the attempts, and he's going to give you the IQ, right? He still averages 1.5 steals per game, for a guy that's not, because again, he can see and read defenses and he knows what's happening and he can read offenses and he can, cheat passing lanes and all that stuff. There's a lot that Chris Paul still provides, but I think it's going to happen. I really do. I really do. And that's why I continue to talk about it and continue to kind of like fill people in on it, because I think it's something that is on the horizon. But those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you want Chris Paul? Do you not want Chris Paul? Do you think, it's sign it up, it's going to happen? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I would love to hear it. So let